And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another episode of Doing the Work, the first show on the Back Home Network covering IU women's basketball. This is our 162nd episode, recorded on Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. I'm your host, Jeff Marlow, joined by my co-host, Kathy Amos. And tonight we will be looking at the Hoosiers roster as of April 23rd, 2025. But tonight we'll start our show, as we do with every show, with our Hoosier Proud banner moment. And Kathy, I'm really not sure what the banner moment is here, except that we have made some success, found at least some recruits in the portal that we're going to talk about. So the Hoosier Proud banner moment for me tonight is actually picking up some players in the portal that I think are going to help us, and we're going to talk about them tonight as well. But our Hoosier Proud banner moment is brought to you by Home Field Apparel, the presenting sponsor of the Back Home Network, which includes shows like the Assembly Call, Crimson Cast, X's and Joe's, and the Dribble Drive. Home Field is constantly releasing new schools or updating its products for schools in its existing line. You are bound to find something for you or anyone in your life that just loves great collegiate gear. Not only do you get quality apparel, but you are supporting an Indiana-based business that has its roots in the Kelly School of Business. Go to homefieldapparel.com and use our promo code HOME23, that's HOME23, to get 15% off your entire first order. That's promo code HOME23 for 15% off. Once again, the website is homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. And in news, I'm going to try and get these pronunciations right, Kathy. Hopefully I'll get them done, but hopefully I'll get them right before we get to the end of next season.
Yes.
Odessa Noyan from Virginia committed to IU in the transfer portal, post player. Zanea Soka Newman from UCLA committed to IU. Again, Big Z is what we're probably going to refer to as.
She goes by Big Z.
But a lot of potential here. Top 30 recruit who did not play a lot last year. And then Journey Kiaku from Duquesne committed to IU. So those are three players that they're new since our last podcast that have committed to IU in the portal. And then just today, a new assistant coach, recruiting coordinator, Colston Thompson, was announced. He will be. He has been a 3-year assistant at Alabama, helping them sign a pair of top 15 recruiting classes, including 23 and the 25 classes. And Kathy, I think that's interesting that I would think he played a big role in recruiting Chloe Spreen to Alabama, and now she's coming back here. So I wonder, I'm not saying they tie together, but at least that gives you a relationship there. And kids transferring out, we want to let you know about Lily Meister is transferring to Kansas. Lexi Bargesser is transferring to Colorado State. Jules Lamondola is transferring to Grand Canyon, and so that leaves Hannah Sandbeck is the only player from last year in the portal that we don't know of if she's found a school at this point. So I'm going to throw it over to Kathy for that. She can comment on the news or just go right into the Amos angle.
Yeah. So thanks, Jeff. Nice to see you and other folks here again in the last couple of weeks. So we picked up a few more people. I think a lot of the commits that we had, and again, we're going to do just for, kind of setting this up for others. Jeff and I are already talking about and planning on doing a deep dive into each of our new players, both the transfers and the freshmen later. It's not what we're doing tonight, but it is interesting to me. I believe all three of these, or at least two of the three commits here tonight, have are international players, right, Jeff? So I think they're originally from overseas. So that's just an interesting twist. Like, we've not shied away from international players before, but it seems like we're fairly heavy right now in our roster for next year with it. So it's good to see, everyone getting committed. We'll talk more about the kind of makeup of the team here later, but we do have now 12 of our 15 scholarships kind of fulfilled. So, it's starting to take shape. So I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on if you think we need any other players, and if so, like kind of where you might expect us to fill some holes yet. But yeah, looking forward to trying to figure out how this puzzle is going to look by the time we get to late October, November of this year, I guess.
Yeah, and Kathy already hit on it. The 12 scholarships right now being used out of the 15 allotted. I'm going to get Kathy's thought here in a minute, but I honestly think they may only use one more. I would expect them to use one more. I think they would want to be at 13, maybe 14. Terry Moore, as far as I can, as long as we've done the show, she's never used a full scholarship of 15, full allotment of scholarships of 15. I think the word, Kathy, right now, before we kind of get into the individuals, the word that you use with this roster is inexperience. Shea Chesky is the only one who really comes back with a lot of experience in there. Lene Beaumont as well, but Lene missed all of last year with the injury. But as far as being a senior and really having a lot of game experience, Shea is the only experienced player on this roster. And so there's a lot of inexperience. You got a lot, it looks like a lot of talent. We got a lot of, Big Z was a high ranked recruit. Spreen was a fairly decent recruit out of high school, Miss Basketball in Indiana. Makaluski, Caffey are all, highly regarded recruits. But now you got to take a lot of this and put it together. And just to me, this may be, obviously the turnover is something we haven't seen in the Terry Morin era, but they've got to find a way to put this inexperienced group and find some chemistry. And that's going to be the challenge.
Yeah, I think there's, again, I mentioned a couple of times now in our podcast, this is definitely the biggest challenge I think Coach Morin has faced in quite some time, if not her entire coaching tenure. As you mentioned, we talked about 12 scholarship players. So just to kind of break down to what Jeff was saying, of those scholarship players, there are only 3 of them that are junior or older. So we have 2 seniors and 1 junior. Everyone else is either a sophomore or freshman. So for those of you keeping track at home, that's 6 sophomores and 3 freshmen. And of those sophomores and freshmen, 1 each are redshirt, as we know, with Lene Beaumont and Sydney Finn, who redshirted her freshman year last year. So she has no experience now coming in and having a year off as well from high school. So that's been my biggest concern as we've been seeing the roster kind of come together, is the lack of experience. So with 2 seniors, you do have Journey coming in here from Duquesne, where she did start 33 games and she played 27 minutes per game. But again, it becomes a question we have on a number of these players is that going to translate to the Big Ten level that we need her to? So in 27 minutes a game, again, is not what we typically see Coach Morin play her upperclassmen. You compare that to Shea Chesky, also our other senior, also started 33 games. She averaged 34 minutes per game last year. So, that production that you've kind of talked about, or at least in terms of experience, we'll run it down. There's very few players coming in that have, if they have experience at all, very few of them even have double-digit minute experience coming in as well. For my account, I think there were only maybe 5 players that had double-digit minutes on average last year.
And you talk about the incoming players, even though you talk about Journey played a lot at Duquesne, it's not the same level. It's not in Terry Morin's system where she's expecting you to play defense and earn minutes to a certain degree on the defensive end. I think this will be interesting. You and I talked about this on the last couple of podcasts, and we still want to get deeper into this with the individuals. But I think for the first time, Kathy, at least in our era of doing the podcast, we're going to see a couple of freshmen play big roles. I think Maya Mikaluski especially is going to play. It could be a starter from day one or a major minute player. And I think Caffey is as well. Now, bringing in somebody like Journey maybe takes some minutes away from a kid like Caffey, because they're kind of essentially the same type of player, point guard, athletic. But I think you're going to see, especially those 2 freshmen. I'm excited to see what Faith Wiseman hopefully will do over the summer and get better as we go into the year. But I am concerned about that lack of experience overall, but lack of experience in this system. And we had somebody ask us this in the Substack, when will these players be here? And my understanding is they have to complete their semester wherever they are. They have to be able to come to the university in good standing. So I don't think you can just say, "Oh, I'm bailing out of here on April 15th and transfer at IU." First of all, you're not going to be starting classes on April 20th at IU. There's no point in that. And I don't think you can work out with the team until the school year officially ends anyway. So I would assume, and Kathy, I'll get your opinion on this, and thoughts, but I don't think you'll see these kids enroll. These kids may step foot on campus May 18th, May 20th, but my gut would tell me a little bit, maybe like that week after Memorial Day, they'll get moved in. I've not paid attention to this in the past. I know these things kind of get put out on Instagram and stuff with the program stuff, but I'm guessing probably that week after Memorial Day is when the newcomers will be showing up on campus.
Yeah, I kind of have the same assumption as you, Jeff. They're probably going to need to wrap up finals. I would expect they want to go home for a little bit and visit some family, perhaps. I would expect them to show up in time, hopefully, for the summer semester to start. I would assume that they're going to enroll in summer semester. So whenever that would start, I would expect sometime in June. I can't remember when they start that. So same thing with our gals that are transferring out. I don't expect them to be leaving early and going to their new schools either around the same time frame. My understanding with transfers is they still have access to all of our facilities and are able to still practice there on campus with, again, still access to like cook hall and the weight room and things like that before they move on to their new team. So, by the way, I fact checked myself here since I had gone through and grabbed a couple of stats. Only 4 of the players coming in this year, as of right now, the way it sits, is had double-digit minutes last year. So Shea Chesky had 34 minutes. Phoenix Stotine had 25, just under 26 minutes. Journey, as I mentioned, had 27 minutes. And then Odessa Noyan, the one from Virginia, had 25. Outside of that, no one they didn't play because they're either hurt or they were are their freshmen coming in, or they had only single-digit minutes. So not only are we young, but it's not just a young in terms of class, but yes, to your point that we've kind of hit on now, probably enough. They're just really inexperienced, in my opinion. And so if, someone were going to ask me what I would want to see us still get out of the portal, yes, I agree. So last year, for reference, if people are wondering, women do get 15 scholarships. Last year, we had technically 14 players on the team, but 2 of them ended up not playing and redshirting. So we really had a roster of 12, which is where we sit right now. I would think with the inexperience that we would want to bring in, hopefully one more, kind of forward or center that maybe has one more year as a senior left to help with some of our young players that we have, especially on the in that front court. I think our front court in particular, outside of Odessa Noyan, we have, Big Z, who averaged 5 minutes a game. Faith Wiseman, which we know, watched her play. She only averaged 3 minutes a game. And then we have 2 of our freshmen coming in. Well, Sydney Finn, again, who is hurt, and then Maya Makalewski. I will learn how to say all these names, I promise, by the time this season starts. That's, to me, the biggest gap. I think I would love to see us get another front court person and somebody with some experience in that front court. With what we have coming in right now, it just seems really thin there for me.
Well, before we go back to the front court, Kathy, let's take a look at the back court here real quick. Yeah. And we've already mentioned Shea Chesky is the only real experience coming back here. The 5'7" senior guard. We expect her to be in the lineup. We expect her to be a captain. And then you, as you mentioned, Phoenix Stotine. You have Chloe Spring coming in from Alabama after a freshman year down there. Journey. Then you also return Valentina Kadlikova and Lene Beaumont. And again, everybody that listens to the podcast knows I'm a huge Lene fan. I'm really looking forward to this coming season with Lene. Yeah. And then you bring in Nevaeh Caffey as the incoming freshman in this group. I wouldn't mind actually seeing them pick up another player here, because the one thing that concerns me about the guards here, the backcourt, is there's not much size. I think we've gotten more athletic. I think we got more athletic, but you look at Shea, 5'7", Phoenix is 5'8", Chloe's 5'10", but then Journey's 5'7", and Lene's 5'9". They list Nevaeh at 5'10". My gut's always kind of told me when you see a listing like that on a high school kid, they're probably actually an inch or two smaller. Now, I hope I'm wrong, but there's not a lot of size in the backcourt. And in the Big Ten, I think that's one of those things that you have that can be tough to overcome. So kind of get your thoughts on the backcourt.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, outside of Valentina, she's listed at 6 foot. Nobody is over 6 foot. She's the only one. And like you mentioned, after that, it drops off real quick. You have a couple 5'10" and 5'7", 5'8", and 5'9". So that's what we had always heard. Coach Morin likes bigger guards. That's what she really liked with Yarden, was that, she could play at a guard position, but she was taller. And that, in fact, she had to get used to that with Shea, right? That Shea and Sarah Scalia too, the year before, weren't big guards, and she was used to having bigger guards. So that's an interesting take too, Jeff. So maybe that's another point where they could have it. I just think that with the experience, though, maybe she's willing now to give up some of that height and size for a little bit more athleticism, which I think we're getting with a couple of the players, right? Especially like Journey. She looked pretty athletic in the little bit of clips that I saw from her. Hopefully Nevaeh adds some of that as well. So maybe she's willing to give up some of that size to get some of that athleticism at the guard level that we've been talking about and wanting for the last 5 years, forever. I don't know, for as long as.
Well,
we've been
one correction here. Sean points out in the Workaholics here is Lanae's actually 6'1". So we had that wrong in the run sheet. So Lanae does give us a little more size. She's 6'1". With that, but I still would like to see another addition here. We've always wanted to get more athletic with these guards and things like that. I'm not sold on Kadlikova. I know she didn't play much last year and she could make a big improvement, but I want to see it on the floor. And I can know people say, well, what's Lanae done? I've seen enough of Lanae to feel like I know what her ceiling is. And then you throw in the kids coming in. Caffey will be a freshman, but I think Spreen and Stotine really have an opportunity, along with Journey, but Stotine and Spreen have an opportunity to really get a chance to really play here, because if I remember right, Stotine is going to be still have more. She has time left. She's not just a one and done kid. Right. So I'm really excited to see.
She will be a sophomore, I should say. So she's got 3 years of eligibility. Stotine does. Yeah.
And our apologies, because the IU webpage is still listing some players with last year's eligibility. So we're trying
in wrong heights, evidently, because that's where I got Lanae's height.
And I just checked it now. They've got Lanae listed at 6'1". So with that, but yeah, give me anything else you want to add about the guards here. I just don't have much, because outside Shea, we really haven't seen. And I at least appreciate that Stotine played in the SEC top league and average double digit minutes, like you said. So she has shown she can do, she averaged 7 a game, not double digits, but she averaged double digit minutes, started half the games that she played. So if she's healthy, I think there's something there. We already talked about Journey a little bit here, and Kyaku is, will that translate to the Big Ten? But just real quick, any other thoughts you have on the guards before we move on to the bigs?
No, I don't think so. I am with you. I know I was pretty high on Valentina last year. She only played about 3 minutes per game, so it's not like I'm going to all of a sudden slot her into a starting position next year without seeing that. We do have at least some players that are coming in with some proven production, right? We have at least 4 of our players here that are coming in that had played for some of these teams. Now, again, but 3 of them have some double-digit minutes. So at least we have quite a bit of experience in that respect. I think the biggest question mark for me is Journey, again, from Duquesne. I'm very interested in digging into her when we get to those episodes, just because a little bit of what I saw, for those interested, if you want, you can Google her. I probably and find she was on the ESPN top 10. I think she even was number 1 for one night, because she made some really fantastic one leg shot during the year. So anyway, she looks like she has some athleticism, because it's certainly not her 3-point shot. Again, we'll dig into that more, because I don't think Journey I think she only shot like 26% from 3. So she's got to be coming in to bring us some athleticism and that ability to get to the rim. So I'm most intrigued by her right now in terms of our new players coming in, just because she looks good on paper from a numbers perspective, 13 points per game. But again, it's always that question, does that translate from a Duquesne level to a Big Ten Indiana level that we would need from her?
Yeah. You there, Kathy?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. thought for a second maybe locked up on me, but
No.
so let's move on to the bigs here, the forwards, as we'll say. So as Kathy pointed out earlier, Odessa Noyen is a 6'3" forward transferring in from Virginia. She's originally from Sweden. She started 23 of the 26 games that she played at Virginia last year, 25 minutes a game. The concern I have here, though, is she only averaged 6 points a game, a little under. Didn't shoot it very well. High free throw percentage rate, but she only shot 41% from the field. So she wasn't putting, she didn't put up big numbers, even though she was, playing over half the game. And then Big Z, a little bit injured, played behind one of the best players in the country. And so she was not getting a lot of time. I think for me, Kathy, I agree with you what you said earlier. I really want to see us add somebody here, an experienced big, a senior, get a senior here for 1 year, kind of a Caroline Strickland that we could get in here and maybe, give that group some experience, some savvy, maybe take up some minutes a little bit from some of the younger kids. But the one that I really am intrigued by, and I think it's because she's the Indiana kid, is Maya Makaluski. She'll be Miss Basketball coming in this year, as the 2025 Miss Basketball in Indiana. She is an Indiana kid, same high school as Sydney Parrish, good background in terms of the program there. And I really have heard good things about her and from what her ranking was. I'm really excited to see her because I don't necessarily, I know with her size, they're listing her as a forward, but I see her more almost as a combo or a wing that can handle the ball a little bit, but also kind of maybe match up. And maybe I'm not saying it's exactly the one, but that might be the person you could see play a little bit of that Yarden role. All right. Yeah. To be able to play multiple spots and then maybe guard multiple players as well. So your thoughts about the bigs, and then maybe a little bit about Maya, what little you may know.
Yeah. I don't know anything about any of them, to be quite honest, outside of Faith Wiseman and what I saw from her last year and what we covered from Sydney Finn when we did our preview of her last year as well. So, I'm really curious to see how much of a step forward Faith will be able to make for us. I really hope we'll be able to see a big sophomore leap from her. We saw glimpses of it in the Big Ten tournament when she had to fill in because of foul trouble. So I'll be curious. And, she seemed serviceable in that instant for that. Now, does that translate to more production and for being able to sustain in longer minutes? I think for her, we really need her to put on some muscle. She's got some nice height at 6'4". She's the tallest one we have on the team, at least according to the website. Who knows, for real? Maybe the website's wrong there too. But she is our tallest player, at least height-wise, coming in. I really would like to see her put on a little bit more muscle so that she can help battle down low a little bit and fight for a shot a little bit more. So I'm really interested in her. The other person I'm quite interested in is Big Z from UCLA. UCLA recruited her for a reason coming out of high school. Mm-hmm. We were also in that recruitment, and that was probably in part why we were able to get into a second recruitment with her, if you will. And my understanding is it came down between us and Maryland. So it was nice to see the reverse there happen, where we got a player away from Maryland this time. As others know, that there was a few other ones we were kind of looking at, and Maryland ended up landing them. So I'm interested with her because I think there is some real good potential there from her. Again, it's hard to know. No, she only played in 16 games, 5 minutes per game. She only averaged 1.5 points and a rebound and a half per game. So it wasn't like she had a lot of production. But like you mentioned, Jeff, she was hurt for part of the year, and she was playing behind Lauren Betts. And so it's really hard to know how much of her lack of production and lack of minutes was because of not being ready versus playing behind Lauren Betts and being injured. And so I'm kind of interested to see, because I thought there were really high expectations on her coming in as a freshman. So those are the two that I think I'm most interested in as of right now, before we do any of our deep dive into the rest of all the players.
And Sean asking in the Workaholics about whether we think the Coach Moore will use the bench a little more next year. We've been doing this show for almost 5 years, and we've been hoping for more bench play. So right. I want to see that. I hope we go a little more depth, but this is a program that has consistently played 6-7 people the majority of the minutes once we really get deep into the season. I hope that we will expand that, but I don't know, Kathy, would you want to take a crack at Sean's question?
Sure. She may have to, just out of necessity.
I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that she will. What I do know for a fact, and I think we all are probably pretty much in agreement, unless we fill a couple of those last 3 scholarship slots with some really all of a sudden major production, which I would be shocked if we're able to see that. We're going to have to play our underclassmen a lot next year and really rely on them with only 3 upperclassmen. That one I bet a lot of money on, and but do we, see that sustained and have a longer kind of rotation? Maybe early in the year as she's figuring out her rotation, but I would not be surprised at all if we get to Big Ten play and she's settled in on those 7 or 8 players that she feels the most comfortable with. Usually that's her upperclassmen, not going to be, but at least now she'll have her players who are she's most comfortable with. We know it will be Shea. Outside of that, I think it's kind of an up in the air. We can probably debate it here later into the summer as we see the complete roster and really start diving into things. But I would think Lene might be in there in that rotation and stuff. But outside of that, I can't even guess who's going to be in the starting 5, let alone in a more permanent rotation. But that's kind of my take, Jeff. I think once we get into Big Ten play, especially in the heart of it in January, I bet she tightens that rotation up to around 8 or so or less.
I hope not, but because I'd like to see her play a good 9 or 10. But with that, but Kathy, let's talk real quick about the news that came out today that Coach Tsai was out, and we don't know whether that was kind of her decision that she got a better offer and she was leaving, or whether Coach Moore was just shaking up the staff. But bringing in Colston Thompson as the new assistant and recruiting coordinator, a couple things here, and I want to get your thoughts on this. We've had a handful of people in the workaholics who we totally respect and don't really try to say anybody has a wrong opinion, who have really kind of hammered on recruiting over the last couple of years, 3 years, and where Coach Moore didn't take advantage of the run that was going through here. But I also will point out Glenn Box had been a longtime assistant for Coach Moore, and Coach Red has been around. And I know when I did the Grace Berger show with her a few years ago, you could just tell talking with her, there was a very solid relationship with Rhett. And I think that worked its way through a lot of the kids in the program. I think there was a solid relationship with not only Coach Moore and Rhett and Glenn, but Glenn also had a good relationship with the players. And then Glenn left to go to Miami, Ohio. Coach Rhett, it was going through some issues with cancer last year. It looked like toward the end of the year he was doing better, and I hope that's the case. So, kind of your thoughts about the move with Coach Tsai here and Colston Thompson coming in as an assistant from Alabama.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to kind of hypothesize on, right? So, Colston Thompson was brought in as not just an assistant coach, but the recruiting coordinator as well. I'm not sure if Coach Tsai had that in her title last year. I don't remember the recruiting coordinator piece. Now, maybe she didn't. I just missed it. But the fact that the write-up that they had on the IU website specifically called out that Coach Colston helped sign a pair of top 15 recruiting classes, to me is something that they seems to be pointing to in terms of a need that they had on their coaching staff. So either if Coach Tsai left on her own or not, it seemed they really wanted to fill that open assistant coaching position with somebody that seemed to be a more proven recruiter at a very high level, which was at Alabama. And to your point, yeah, maybe there was also that relationship that was started already with Chloe Spring to help bolster that as well for them, because he certainly doesn't have ties to Indiana. He is originally from Alabama. So it must be something that they're looking for, I thought, as well, at least on paper, and the one article that I read that had to do with the recruiting, that they were really trying to target and understand filling that need.
And Kathy, I want to get your thoughts on this, but in the last couple of weeks, we've kind of gotten more and more of an indication from some sources, and we're not trying to divulge any source. We're not trying to give away. Some of these are public, that the NIL has been a real situation, that Coach Moore really believed, I think like a lot of coaches wanted to believe, that her culture, that her program doing the things they did their way would be enough to overcome some of the lack of NIL money. And so NIL has been lagging. Part of that is being said anyway, that it kind of laying the blame at Coach Morin with not going out to do more to try and drum up NIL money. But now they're trying to play catch up, and we may be seeing that a little bit in the portal. But I think the university, at least, and this is going to be the big thing as we move forward, because revenue sharing is going to come around here as well soon. football is going to get the biggest chunk of it. And football is going to, because it's the number one marquee sport on any university campus. But then men's basketball at a place like IU is going to get it. How does women's basketball market themselves into the NIL market and for example, revenue sharing? But right now, just kind of your thoughts on what we've heard about the NIL and the culture and what Coach Moore had tried to resist.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't really know if I buy that she resisted trying to accept NIL versus maybe she just didn't have the NIL resources or pushed for, trying to get them more than she needed to. Maybe she did think that the culture was enough that would overcome the NIL deficiencies we had. And maybe she felt she didn't need to make the big push, the big public pushes to say, hey, we really need your help and these types of things. Maybe that's just her philosophy and she wasn't comfortable talking about NIL as well in public and asking people to donate money and things of that nature. I am really interested to see what the revenue sharing law that just got passed or whatever you want to call it, ruling, whatever, is it a ruling or a law? Whatever the revenue sharing is that we're calling it, that came in. I am curious to see, like you said, how it will be because, reports out earlier this year when we heard this revenue sharing was coming was that, they were going to have a huge chunk of the football. And then after that, they were kind of split it a little more evenly between the men and women's basketball program. Now, whether that holds true or not, I think will be a big surprise to all of us in one way or another. But I do think it does impart upon us, especially I think it raised a huge red flag and whistles for us to start blowing when Yarden left, citing in part, and she didn't cite personally, but a lot of people cited a lot of it was because of NIL. It also makes me wonder with some of the names we've seen, we're not, again, we don't historically go after huge, big names in the portal and those types of things, but we do have a lot of folks that are coming that are international and there's special rules for what they can do with NIL and revenue sharing. I wonder if that's how we got to the kind of roster construction that we have is a big chunk because of NIL and the lack of it. So it will be interesting to see if we start hearing more from Coach Morin and from other places asking more people to donate to things like Hoosier Connect so that even if the women aren't going to get a huge chunk of the revenue sharing per se, that they can start trying to build their NIL coffers in a different way. And that would have to be through collectives.
Yeah, I agree. So final thoughts here tonight on the podcast, Kathy. I'm just going to simply sum it up with it. Quang said it in the Workaholics. It's going to be an interesting 25-26 season. And I go back to the one word right now is inexperience. This is going to be the most inexperienced team we've seen in Bloomington during the podcast era for us on doing the work. But I think you could make the argument it's the most inexperienced team, if not in Terry Morin's history at IU, at least since probably the Tyra Buss, Amanda Cahill freshman year, maybe as much inexperience. So, but sometimes that can be a fun ride to be on it because you're kind of thinking, what do we got? But, if they can put the pieces together, if the chemistry can fit and players play to what their rankings were, like Spreen and Big Z, all of a sudden you're pretty good. So, but it's going to be an interesting ride and I'm actually kind of looking forward to it, even though I've had fun with the years we've been doing it because we've been pretty good. We've been number one, number two in the country, that kind of, number one seed in the tournament. But sometimes the unknown is more exciting than knowing that you're going to be really good. So I'm kind of looking forward to the season, but it's going to be I think it's going to be a roller coaster ride. It's going to be an interesting season, as Quang said. And I'm just inexperienced is going to be a word I think we use a lot as we especially head into next year.
Yeah, absolutely. The other word that I think that we will be having at least going into here, and maybe it's not one word, it's 3, lack of expectations. Like my expectations, I don't even know what to set them at. I can't even say I have low expectation. Like I just have no idea what I'm going to say. Like if we try to do a preview and say, let's predict our schedule. Well, shoot, I couldn't tell you at this point in time because I don't know enough about these players coming in. I don't even know that I could tell you who I think the starting 5 is going to be at this point in time. Again, it's April 23rd, so we have time to try to learn and get to know these players. But honestly, I don't think until even November and the first time the ball is tipped, I still don't think we're going to have a way to have reasonable expectations for this team. And like you said, that's a different feeling for us than we've had in a long time as IU women basketball fans. And I think it can be interesting because boy, you go in, hopefully you're playing with no expectations. You don't have that. Like maybe I wonder if our team from last year felt that a little bit with the carry it over, expectations of always making the tourney and making a deep run, being the top of the Big Ten. Those expectations like, oh, maybe they'll play a little looser and it might be a lot of fun basketball to watch too. I know we were also asked if our guards are faster this year. I don't honestly know, a little bit. That I've seen makes me say yes. So we might see not just a different, might see a different group. We are absolutely seeing a different team. We might see a different style of basketball as well. And so it's kind of exciting, like you said, to see as we are clearly embarking now on a different road in this journey with the women's basketball program here to see how it goes. So it can be kind of fun. So that's what I'd say to everyone. Just sit back, relax, and Sean also put a nice analogy. It's just like a box of chocolate, like Forrest Gump. You never know what you're going to get. That's true. I think each game is going to be, until January, February. I don't know that we're going to know what we get from this team until it gets a little more solidified.
As far as the guards, I'm not sure we can be any slower.
That's true.
I'm really not sure you can get any slower than we have been the last couple of years. And I've loved the players for us the last couple of years, but guard lateral speed has not been a strength of this of this program with that. So, Kathy, I know what I was going to say too, and I want to get your thoughts really kind of maybe like a 1 minute answer for you from this. But I know Indiana suffered a lot of loss in the portal. But we've been lucky the last couple of years. We hadn't really lost anybody in the portal. We had a pretty stable roster. So we kind of all hit us at once, and we're all kind of like, oh. But Cody McMahon left Ohio State. Olivia Miles leaving Notre Dame. I mean, you had some big name players at big time programs jump into the portal with, the idea being that the grass is greener somewhere else. So just real quick, what are your thoughts about some of those bigger name players who jumped in the portal when they were already established stars?
Absolutely. I mean, this is not something unique to Indiana at all to be losing a large chunk of the roster. I mean, shoot, we got Big Z from UCLA. Her entire class for UCLA, that entire freshman class entered the portal, and they were one of the highest ranked freshman classes coming in for this past season. So it is not anything, I know it's hard for us because the last couple of years, especially last year with 0 transfers, hard for us as Indiana fans when we get our cream and crimson glasses on and think, oh, this must mean there's something wrong with the program. They did some exit interviews and whatnot with some of the leaving players or player coming in, and they talked with some of our leaving players who said there's no hard feelings there between the program. They loved their time at Indiana, and I think it seems most of the players leaving have said that. I don't think there's a problem with the program. I just think this is the way it is right now until something else changes. When we have the transfer portal, that's, the wild, wild west out there, and NIL and now revenue sharing on top of it. I just think we have to expect to have some big turnover. Now, hopefully we don't lose 9 players again next year between graduation and portal, and it's not quite this dramatic, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some players transfer next year either.
I think until something changes at the national level, whether it's, and I don't think the NCAA can do it. The way the court is ruled, the NCAA is basically powerless on this. Kids have the ability to be a free agent every year. They can literally go out every year. And I'm not sure that's a good thing. All right. I'm all for movement. I'm all for, a kid who wants to better themselves. But until we can get some stability back into it, you're just going to have to live with the idea that basically a kid is a free agent at the end of every season. And you're going to have to kind of recruit them to stay. And as fans, we're hoping they'll stay. So, Kathy, you got anything else you want to add? Otherwise, let's take us out of here and we'll wind it up tonight.
Yep. Nope. I think that does it for me for tonight.
All right. Up next, we'll be back in 2 weeks on May the 7th. Right now, Kathy and I are kind of just still discussing this, but kind of think about every 2 weeks here for a show. And we may even back it up a little farther than that. I mean, we got a lot of time to talk about these incoming players and what the roster is going to look like. And we don't even know what the schedule is yet. So there's a lot of time here, between now and say October when we got to start having a little more regular show. So pay attention to our Twitter feed, pay attention to our Substack feed. But right now, we will be on in 2 weeks again on May 7th. That'll be an 8 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock Central if you want to watch us on the live YouTube feed. And if you want to watch this, if you do want to watch the show live and be a part of the live chat, the Workaholics, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@Backhome Network. That's the @ symbol, youtube.com/@Backhome Network. You can be a part of our private community as well. Find out more at assemblycall.substack.com. Special thanks to John Ringer of rigdesign.com for designing our logos. Big thank you to Bob Thompson for the music you've heard throughout the broadcast. I want to thank my co-host Kathy Amos tonight for being here as she always is and doing such a great job producing behind the kind of doing the production work tonight. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about IU hoops. Until then, keep your elbow in, your eyes on the rim, and let's go Hoosiers.
All right.
All right.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah, we'll need to really do some deep diving, Jeff, because I couldn't, like, I've already had a couple people asking us on Substack and other places, like, oh, who are your starting 5 projection? No idea.
I'll tell you in October.
Yeah, maybe. I'll tell you when they like maybe we have an exhibition game that we get access to or something like that. After that, maybe I'll make a prediction. But even then, I don't know that I would count on it.
Assuming she's healthy, Shay will be one of the 5. After that, Shay will be one of the 5. I haven't got a clue. Don't ask me that in April. I don't even know who all the roster. We don't even know who all the new players are yet. We haven't even. I'm still trying to learn the names.
That's right. Our goals right now is to learn how to pronounce their names.
Yes, that's a good starting 5. Forget the starting 5. Yeah.
That's right. So good. All right, Jeff. Well, thanks a lot for hosting us tonight. That was fun. And so we'll figure out what we'll talk about in 2 weeks, and we'll take questions as always. And until then, you guys have a great couple of weeks.
Night, everybody.